The Atocha went down in a hurricane in 1622. It was 35 miles off the coast of Florida. It was carrying 40 tons of gold and silver.
On July 20th, 1985, after a grueling 16-year search, treasure hunters finally found the Atocha, and the $450 million haul left them speechless. For centuries, this Spanish galleon loaded with the wealth of the New World was nothing more than a myth. It took one man's stubborn belief to turn that myth into reality.
You ever done it?
No, I knew it was going to happen. We've been looking for 16 long years.
We'll uncover the incredible story of the hunt, the genius invention that made it possible, the devastating losses along the way, and the shocking truth about the treasure that is still waiting to be found at the bottom of the sea. When the ocean claimed its gold. The fleet had been delayed for weeks in Havana, Cuba, waiting out bad weather. But the pressure to deliver the treasure was immense, and they set sail right into the heart of hurricane season. It was a disastrous decision. Just 2 days into their voyage, as they entered the Florida Straits, the sky turned black. A ferocious hurricane, what we'd likely call a Category 4 or 5 storm today, descended upon the fleet. Winds screamed at over 150 miles per hour, and waves the size of buildings crashed over the decks. The Atocha, heavy and slow, was no match for the storm's fury. Its masts snapped like twigs and its rudder was torn away, leaving the massive ship helpless. It was driven directly onto a coral reef and ripped open. Of the 265 people on board, crew, soldiers, and wealthy passengers, only 5 survived by clinging to the one part of the ship that remained above water. Within days, a second hurricane hit, dragging the wreckage and its incredible treasure to the ocean floor, where it was scattered and buried under the shifting sands. For the next 350 years, the Atocha became a legend, the holy grail for treasure hunters. Fast forward to the 20th century, enter Mel Fisher, a former chicken farmer from Indiana who had fallen in love with the ocean. He was a pioneer of scuba diving, running a successful dive shop in California with his wife Deo. But Fisher wasn't content with teaching. He was an adventurer, a dreamer obsessed with the idea of finding lost Spanish treasure. He had some early successes, but he was hunting for the big one, the mother lode. When he learned about the Atocha, it became his obsession. Many people thought he was crazy. The search area was a massive expanse of ocean, hundreds of square miles, and the treasure was likely buried under 15 to 20 feet of sand. But Mel Fisher had a motto that he lived by: today's the day. In 1969, he moved his entire family to Florida to dedicate his life to finding the Atocha. He sold everything he owned, raised money from investors, and assembled a team of divers who shared his relentless optimism. The thing nobody tells you is just how expensive this kind of operation is. It costs thousands of dollars every single day just to keep the boats fueled and the crew paid. For years, they found almost nothing. They were burning through money with no return, testing the faith of even his most loyal supporters. The search was grueling and for a long time fruitless. They scoured an area near the Matacumbe Keys based on old Spanish documents. But what many overlooked was the sheer difficulty of the task. The divers were essentially searching blind, dragging magnetometers behind their boats, hoping for a blip that signified metal. After covering over 100,000 miles of the ocean floor, they had nothing to show for it. Fisher's team was on the verge of giving up. The dream was turning into a financial nightmare. But Mel's belief never wavered. He knew he needed a breakthrough, a new piece of the puzzle. He hired a historian, Eugene Lyon, to dig through the Spanish archives in Seville, the very place where the Atocha's voyage was planned. It was a long shot, to say the least. Lyon spent months poring over centuries-old handwritten documents. Then he found it. A forgotten record from the original Spanish salvage attempt mentioned a different location, the Marquesas Keys, over 100 miles from where Fisher's team was searching. It was the clue that would change everything. The search had a new location, but the ocean doesn't give up its secrets easily. Echoes from the deep. With the new information from the Spanish archives, Mel Fisher and his crew moved their entire operation to the Marquesas Keys. This was a massive gamble, but it felt right. You see, the problem now was different. The water was deeper here, around 55 feet, and while it was clear on the surface, the bottom was a murky soup of sand and silt. When the divers got down there, visibility was practically zero. They couldn't see their own hands in front of their faces, let alone spot a centuries-old coin. Many people would have seen this as an insurmountable obstacle, but Mel Fisher was an innovator. He came up with a brilliant yet surprisingly simple invention that became his secret weapon. He designed large, curved tubes that could be lowered into the water in position to divert the powerful thrust from the boat's propellers downward. He called them mailboxes. These devices shot a column of clear surface water directly onto the seabed, blowing away the sand and silt like a giant underwater leaf blower. It was a game changer. Not only did it clear their visibility, but it also dug massive craters in the sand, uncovering anything that had been buried for centuries. And that's when everything changed. In 1971, while using the mailboxes, the crew uncovered an enormous anchor, clearly from the 17th century. It wasn't gold, but it was proof. They were in the right place. The discovery electrified the team. Soon other artifacts started appearing: cannonballs, pieces of pottery, and even a few silver coins. They began meticulously mapping every single find, placing a circle on a chart for each recovery. Slowly but surely, a pattern emerged, a scattered trail of debris stretching for miles. They called it the Atocha Trail. They were convinced that if they followed this line of breadcrumbs, it would eventually lead them to the mother lode, the main pile of treasure from the ship's lower hull. What many people don't realize is that this process took years. Each day was a grind, with the crew spending hours in the water, digging huge holes in the ocean floor, often finding nothing. It was a test of patience and perseverance. Then, in 1973, they hit a mini jackpot. A few hundred feet from the anchor, they found 3 massive silver bars and a small hoard of silver coins. This was their first significant find, worth well over $100,000. But here's the kicker: they had to be sure it was from the Atocha. Another ship in the fleet, the Santa Margarita, had also gone down nearby. They turned back to the ship's manifest Eugene Lyon had uncovered. Every single silver and gold bar taken on board was recorded with a unique serial number, its weight, and its purity. The crew carefully cleaned one of the bars, and there it was, a serial number that matched the manifest perfectly. It was undeniable proof. They were on the trail of the Atocha. The find allowed Fisher to pay his crew and his debts, breathing new life into the operation. He was back in business. But the hunt for the Atocha was not a simple adventure story. It was also a tragedy. Just as momentum was building, the state of Florida stepped in, claiming ownership of everything Fisher found. This kicked off an 8-year legal battle that went all the way to the Supreme Court. While the lawyers fought on land, the crew continued their search at sea. In 1975, they made another huge discovery: 9 bronze cannons, their markings confirming they were from the Atocha. The crew was ecstatic. It felt like they were getting closer than ever. But their celebration was short-lived. That very night, tragedy struck. One of their salvage boats capsized while the crew slept, and 3 people were lost, including Mel's own son, Dirk, his daughter-in-law, Angel, and fellow diver Rick Gage. The loss was devastating. It would have broken most people, but for Mel Fisher, it deepened his resolve. The search was no longer just about treasure, it was a tribute to those he had lost. He vowed he would never give up. But for years after the tragedy, the trail went cold and the hunt seemed doomed. After years of heartbreak and a trail gone cold, a forgotten clue would resurface. A fortune found, a battle begun. By the early 1980s, Mel Fisher had spent over a decade and millions of dollars searching for the Atocha. The trail of artifacts they had been following for years had run dry. Morale was low and the money was running out again. To put it mildly, things looked grim. But Fisher's stubborn optimism was legendary. He held on to a story he had heard years before, an account from a survivor of the Atocha's sister ship. The account mentioned that an admiral had smuggled 70 pounds of incredible Colombian emeralds onto the Atocha. There was no official record of this, but Mel believed it. He knew there was more down there than just gold and silver. And then came a major victory, not at sea, but in the courtroom. After 8 long years, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Fisher's favor, granting him 100% of the rights to whatever he found. The government's claim was thrown out. This legal victory was a huge boost, but it didn't change the fact that they still hadn't found the main prize. The crew started to rethink their strategy. For years, they had been focused on the main Atocha trail, but what if the second hurricane had pushed the heaviest part of the wreckage, the lower hull, in a different direction? Mel's son Kane proposed a new theory. He believed the treasure lay in a different area, away from the main debris field. He convinced his father to let him search an area to the east. It was a hunch, a gut feeling. For 2 years, they followed this new path, finding small artifacts that suggested they were onto something. Then on July 20th, 1985, exactly 10 years to the day after the tragic loss of his brother Dirk, Kane Fisher got a call on the radio. A diver reported seeing something unusual. He said he saw a reef, but he added, "The rocks are shaped like cannonballs and they're all square." Those weren't rocks, they were silver bars. Diver Greg Wareham and Kane Fisher went down to check. At first they saw nothing but sand. On a hunch, Wareham swam about 100 yards away from the marked spot, and there it was. What he saw left him speechless. It wasn't a few scattered bars, it was a mountain. Piles and piles of silver bars, stacked like firewood, lay before him. The lower hull of the ship had been found, and its contents were staggering. There were chests of gold coins, long gold chains, and priceless jewels. The thing nobody tells you is the sheer scale of the find. Over the next few years, they recovered more than 100,000 silver coins, 1,000 silver bars, hundreds of gold coins, gold bars, and exquisite jewelry. The total value was estimated at an incredible $450 million. After 16 years of tireless searching, of triumph and tragedy, Mel Fisher's mantra had finally come true. Today was the day. Among the incredible riches, they found something that proved Mel's old story true. Buried within the wreckage were thousands of the world's finest uncut emeralds, some as large as a man's fist. These were the smuggled gems from the old survivor's tale, a treasure that wasn't even on the manifest. One thumb-sized emerald alone was valued at over $800,000. Another was worth over $1 million. The discovery of the Atocha mother lode was one of the greatest treasure finds in history. It made headlines around the world. Mel Fisher, the dreamer who had been called a fool for 16 years, was now a hero. He had poured his life into this quest, faced unimaginable loss, and fought the government, and he had won. The treasure was his. The find was a testament to his unbreakable spirit and his unwavering belief that the impossible was just waiting to be discovered. But the story of the Atocha wasn't over yet. The main treasure was found, but the ship's greatest secret was still out there. The discovery of the Atocha's mother lode in 1985 was a monumental achievement. But what many people don't realize is that the hunt is far from over. You see, the treasure they found was from the ship's lower cargo hold. The most valuable section of a Spanish galleon was the stern castle. This was where the captain and wealthy passengers had their cabins, and it's where they would have stored their personal wealth, the most valuable jewels, and the church's gold. The stern castle of the Atocha broke off during the hurricane and has never been found. Experts believe it could hold a treasure even greater than the $450 million haul already recovered. To this day, Mel Fisher's family, through their company Mel Fisher's Treasures, continues the search. Every day they are out on the water, still following the motto, "Today's the day." They are hunting for the final, richest chapter of the Atocha's story. Was Mel Fisher a heroic adventurer or just a lucky gambler? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories.